Hello and welcome. Today's date, Monday, July the 15th, 2019. My name is Derek. This is the Money Charts channel where, like always, all bets, trades, and of the like, well, that's within each's own risk and their own reward. For myself, risk reward management is always job number one. On the monthly term time frame, I mean, it's so slow in watching it go through, but it's been such a very bullish market. Market has a high, has the low, failed breakdown in towards here, has managed to escape congestion area, and just a little bit of a gain in here, and so far follow through, just going sideways, pause month thus far. That's a key word, thus far. We're halfway through. As it is the 15th day of July, there's 31 days. No days off, no hours off, no minutes off on the Bitcoin price movement. 18 average, well, it was rising amazingly here. And then it went sideways, started to barely go down. Now it's starting to barely go up. Okay, well, full momentum in a bull market, you see higher highs consistently. Well, higher high above here brings us back into previous congestion area. Let's go to the weekly. And of course, coming back, whenever it has a break above this, I'm always going to be looking for support pretty much at the 18 average of highs and even closes for that matter if it's going to have any deep ones. 18 average of lows most certainly, but when it's above it like this, I would prefer to see 2 to 3 periods minimum to get there. But as far as these shorter term time frames are concerned, weekly chart having just the nice little up run as after it went bearish. And when would I signify a bearish move? It would have been right here. Although the price was already down a lot by that point. Because in this situation in here, this was just a very long uptrend. And stage number one, band flatten out. Stage number two, establish a level of support. Stage three, come back to the band. And, well, stage four, break, establish support. It tried it here, didn't do it, but succeeded its correctionary move on a bearish level. Try it again. I mean, no, close. And again, succeeded its correctionary test. And that was a long test, extremely long. And then, of course, it went bearish as it broke down below this level. So it went bearish at around 5,000. Managed to have one leg lower to 31. Within its correctionary mode, on a bearish level, you come to close to the 18 in here, and then unable to get the job done on this breakdown. Then you have your correctionary test, and okay, well, in a bearish level, what you're supposed to do here is go down from this point at some point. You had this candle in here where it went up to the highs, came back down, but then all of this happened. It's like, okay, well, come on, bears, are you gonna bring this down? You're not even having any attempt to push it down. I mean, the bulls really aren't doing much either, but the not doing much is holding in there. You break and you go. Now for reversal of trend on the opposite end. Stage one. Stage number two. We're stage three. Come back to band in stage four. It never technically did. This is really one of the two methods in which it doesn't do it. The normal one is just to go straight, like a big green goes way up. It's just, oh my goodness. It just leaves from bearish or neutral. It just, boom, it just goes way up. No. The reason why I go for those stage three, stage three is just your correctionary mode from that attempt. And that's exactly what this is. So even though it mathematically didn't technically hit this number, you just got to give it the benefit of the doubt, breaking this level of resistance for this to be bullish. Because if you're technically waiting for it to come back to the band, we've just hit it. And I guess resistance is established in here. And technically speaking, coming back and breaking above is a bullish target. But to say it's bullish at 15,000 after saying it was bearish at 5,000, well, yeah. On the triple day, when did all of this get bearish and from whatever, well, back in here, this was just a fantastic uptrend and there was nothing that made anything go bearish for every single one of these moves in here. 1, 2, 3, And I'm just going to, what's the easiest way for me to do this? I think like this. This one, this one, I suppose as well. Definitely don't suppose. Definitely this one. I'm going to ignore this because that's like, man, whatever. Is this count as well? Well, let's just take a look back and see. That's a pretty deep one, and no, not really, because that was from the bottoming end, from this low. So the bottom breakout point from the lows was September of 2015. Its attempt to revert the trend was October of 2015. And in this situation in here, at what point would you be like, okay, this is bullish? Now, technically, breaking established resistance. This is the exact same point I mentioned about. Usually, if there's going to be like, if it's not going to follow the tricks, it goes straight up. This is one of the methods right there where it did. And at some point, you just have to deem it to be bullish. That's all I pretty much can say on those spots there. But now, when we look at this on a larger perspective in here, the length from this area, the amount of periods, well, there's 365 days in a year, and it's August of 2015 to December of 2017. So that's about, well, 2.25 years. So 800, divide that by 3. We're talking about over 200 days in a bullish uptrend. That's just magnificently large. And amongst that, it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost a seventh, but not quite, of an attempt to revert that bull trend. And it finally was able to do it after it managed to go up from a level of 200, a little over 200, to a little under 20,000. That's a little under 100 times from high to low. So from that moment on, what have we seen within this time frame? Well, there is this. You have to ask yourself the question, is this deep enough as far as establishing support? If it was, well then you would have deemed the market to be bearish at 8,300 and it would have been all the way to 3. If you deem this as established support, you're working at the exact same level you were with the daily, but every single time now above the highs. Failure on the breakout. Failure here on the breakout. Failure here on the breakouts. There's 3 attempts to get it going. Kind of attempted it here? No. There's no attempt to revert the trend in here because it just stayed within the 18. I don't see an attempt on reversal until it gets above it, which it did so on February of 2019. And amongst it, it established resistance for stage number 2. Stage number 1 was all of this flattening out in here a couple days before the breakout. And then the magnificent coming back to the band. It was just over and over. On any of these days, you're like March 14th, you're like, oh my goodness, this is looking ready to go. And any of those days around it. Yet it didn't do it until the 1st of April. But at that point, breaking established resistance, okay, bull market. And then we have support, and it's just been in that mode the entire time, and momentum has been lowered a little bit as the 18 is declining a bit, but it's still, I mean, the rate of ascent is lower. That's it. It's not declining. It's still increasing. That's what obviously keeping this on a bullish level. So last time it had a good couple hundred periods or so. If it's going to do that, we still got a lot more to go because that was 2 years and change. So far, we're at about a third of a year, a little more than, but 0.37 of a year. In viewing things on the daily term, price action above back above this low, this high below this one, and during a bull market, all sell-offs are guilty until proven innocent. Is it going to try one? Well, yesterday's day is the second time from the April 1st breakout in which price action has broken down below the 18 average of lows and closed there. So now the question after such an event like that is, because that's in a statement that it's attempting to try to revert the trend. Thus, we've already done stage one, band flattening out. Now it's attempting to do stage two, establish a level of support. It's got to go a bit deeper than this. I'd like to see it at least come down to around here if it's going to establish a level of support. To me, this is just a little weak, a little soft of a low level. Like the three little bears, too low. This is just too low. So just, I mean, right around here. But that's, of course, 9,000. If it's, of course, going to do that, is it able to hold and stay above it? That's exactly what happened here. What happens after the fact? This is an X2 hit, a previous hit of this low, but this was a previous test of this low as well, too. And like I mentioned before, until we have a break above this, blue below that, it's just sideways, choppy action on the shorter term time frames, like the 8 hour. And because of such, I'm just going to just quickly take a look at the short term and then move into Bitcoin dominance because I want to talk a bit about that as well. I don't really think I have time for much more else. Maybe Bitcoin Cash because it had an interesting day compared to some of the other ones out there. So I got more of the Fibonacci lines. So those are just some of the key levels worth looking at. There's other ones if you want to attempt, of course, in the correctionary mode or correctionary mode. That makes no sense. There's other ones if you want to calculate it for situations like say this low to which high would I choose? Yikes! I guess this high. Fibonacci from there to there. Yeah, Fibonacci from this high as well too, but it's on this one there. It's actually holding and breaking up above 61.8, pretty much at the 70. It's pretty much congesting the 76.4. I can tell without looking. But as far as what I look at, way easiest to look at, three different peaks in here, each one a little higher than the last. So be it. I'm just noticing that it had a clear break above established resistance. It tried to break it here, but once it mathematically got above this line at 3, 4 o'clock, it didn't go any higher. Same thing here. Once it mathematically got above this, it didn't go any higher. Then you had a failed breakout before the big move. Broke this trend line. I mean, I don't show it, but all these lows that connect from this point to this point, there's your failed breakdown and then just quickly getting past resistance. What happened when it barely broke past this? Well, it had a good leg higher, and now it's just going a little symmetrical in here. So yeah, we'll see how this continues on further. But that's enough on Bitcoin against the U.S. dollar. That's already 12 minutes in. And I got some time I want to talk as far as Bitcoin and the market cap. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hide the volume. I think that will get rid of it. Settings, show hide. Yep. So this is the 15-minute time frame on the Bitcoin dominance, which earlier last night managed to get up to that of, on this ranking number anyway, 69%. But it is what it is for this number. And I'm trying to find ways of calculating it really precisely. I thought earlier that I could have, but it's just not working. But anyway, with that being said, let's now take a look at the information that I got because this gives me a lot of good information. As far as the 3-hour term time frame in here, I got this line down here. I've changed it. There was an upside Fibonacci in here. I just recently changed it like a half hour ago before the start of this video. 8-hour time frame with the dominance making it to highs it hasn't seen in quite some time. So I put a line in at 62.11. And I put a line in at 58.03. So interesting numbers. And they could very easily, and I'm not surprised if they do, start to marginally move higher accordingly each. For this is being calculated as far as Fibonacci is concerned. I am taking these lows within these highs. Because when did the cryptos bottom? Yeah, they bottomed. There was two key dates. They bottomed. The move broke down pretty much at the end of the year. And within this, as the markets were stopped going down, well, Bitcoin was doing much better than this, meaning altcoins did better than Bitcoin. Obviously from even, like say this point in here, like Christmas, December 25th when this was at 55, down to its April 1st lows of 52. Not by much, and it was just up and down choppy, but just marginally more. But obviously, since the April 1st breakout, which of course is in here, it's been going just straight up. There has been one very good correctionary mode, which of course within these lines, this high to this low, spot where altcoins had a good run, a small intro move run against Bitcoin, but obviously losing it within this move from the June 13th breakout, breaking this level of resistance, supporting it, not resisting it, and very quickly at that at the start of July. And it's just been going up. So Fibonacci from this low to this high are those two numbers. But I have a hard time really trusting either the one I do or even the normal one. Even the normal one is going to be around the same and might be a bit more accurate because this doesn't move like a normal market price action would, where 5% is always the same and there's no bottom end or top end number that is stagnant. Like this is 0 and 100, and that's just uh, and the way I'm looking at it is in market price. If you're at 1, you could go down a million times lower, and then you get all the decimals. And if you go to 100, you go to 2, 3, 4, 5. So calculating it makes me kind of wonder. But those are the two numbers. At some point, I'm expecting key high, key low, and well, this is key low. I'm expecting key high and then key low after that, and possibly maybe that of significant moves. Because I'm going to look at this even more longer term time frame now. Let's move on to the 3-day. So I'm looking at Fibonacci from this low to this high. We got all of this stuff back in here. So what are some of these key time frames? Like this was a bottom here on May of 2018. This was a top of April the 1st. What went down on that? Well, that was the April Fool's rally, as I call it. As the market's altcoins topped in the first month of 2018, as we can see, this is the first month of 2018 on this low. And of course, this move here was both Bitcoin and altcoins going down, but altcoins going down at a more precipitous or more larger rate. And then the altcoins had just a fantastic move, pretty much from like April 1st to like April 30th, May 1st, May 1st, 3rd, as we can see, where a lot of the altcoins were going up at just large proportions. But that was the real last good the last good dartboard rally we have ever had, I think. For the most part, there was a pretty good one at the start of the year too. But as far as that is concerned, that was like a big, big, big dip at that time. And amongst it, of course, altcoins kept going down, Bitcoin, all that stuff. I mean, it's been a precipitous decline for altcoins, and of course, the that pretty much stopped near. I can hear in September that decline, Bitcoin going lower. Well, altcoins didn't take the hit as bad as Bitcoin, but they already did beforehand. And then altcoins kind of started this rally off at, we can see in here, going here down to here. Do we go back down lower? Let's take a look at this on the weekly. See, this is where I'd really, I mean, would Fibonacci really work in here doing it the way I'm doing? I'm talking about a high of like, what, 94? I mean, what's the difference between, see, in Fibonacci mathematics, 98 to 94, there's really not much of a difference at all. But as far as percentile, it's actually a noticeable difference. And I also see in here that if I'm trying to be one that's calling, okay, I'm confident that altcoins are going to overperform Bitcoin. But is there any signs right now that this rally is over? And all I can say is that it might be. But just because we're at a level of this level of resistance, this is like head and shoulders, it's like. I mean, what's to say it can't go up to 80? I don't think it will, but it could. And if you think it's going to go point low to point high, well, now you're trying to predict this to be your high area. It might be, but if you're predicting that it's going to go, say, significantly lower in here, then if you were to be quote unquote a buyer here, market goes, or a short seller, we'll say, if you were to short some sort of market here or bet against it to go down in whatever form, it goes up here, so you're losing in the early form, then it goes down, well, you'd still win. That's one way of looking at it. So as long as you're right in your prediction, you don't. It's not about trying to get that exact level. It's just these markets are going to go up, they're going to go down, And any of this type of nice up and down choppy action, if it comes back, that to me would just be fantastic. All right then. I'm not going to go over the fundamentals too much for why I think long term it is going to go down, but the biggest one, as I've stated before, is for me, is the cost of sending Bitcoin at assorted times, its volatility of its cost, and what those costs most likely would look like when Bitcoin prices get to 50, 60, 100, 300,000 type dollars. Okay, now let's take a look at Bitcoin Cash, and I'm very interested to see what it's doing over the last like 20 minutes or so because it had a huge, huge pump. Better than more of the other, some of the other coins. I don't know about most. Better than Litecoin, better than Bitcoin. On the daily chart, well, there we see it. Right now it's up 11%, so it hasn't came back to its highs. But it's not too far off from it, and it's well below still this 18 average of lows. For it's had this very strong push. Now the question is this your established support? Is this? Did you put this? Do you deem this right now in a bear market? If you do, either way, it's the 18 is going to signify a big correctionary mode. This level of key support was a range between 380 down to 336. Also congestion in here. Well, resistance right now has been 327. What have we seen short term? Well, there was the big breakdown. Looks like a failed breakdown possibly right now. But if we resist within this 18 and is not able to have any move below it, then no, that's established a leg lower. Have your lower high resistance correctionary mode usually back to where you came from, check mark here, and then you go back and make a new one. So it's at the upper end here. Obviously, at a bullish level, holding places like 295, piercing below is fine. But holding levels like that is super important at this stage because if it's unable to do so, then well, obviously it's not gonna be fun times from that point on. And well, this is that move that happened really fast. It's 284 up to 324. So a differential of 40, and that's like 15%. So yeah, not bad. And on the 1 minute term time frame, when these things are ready to go, they just go. Should get my volume back in here because it was off due to the annoyance of some markets, like that one there. I think the gold and silver markets are not or the Dow Jones, or some of them are just so bad. But here you can see I do want my volume in here. At this stage, it's like okay, we got to get above this level. We're correcting this attempt. Well, this was the attempt right here to revert the trend. That's all it was at this stage. Came down in here, it successfully corrected its statement to attempt. If you understand what I'm saying by that, because it never really did do establish number two. But as it went up here, okay, so now, okay, stage number two right here. Resistance is established at 289 amongst this 1 minute. And of course, beforehand, this was a failed move breakout. Doing this one in here, getting above. That was a nice decisive move, but nah, obviously didn't do it. But in here, this is what went on. Okay. So in just 3 periods, you break this level of resistance. That's why playing this type of game, you got to be fast sometimes, and a lot of times even for that matter. And this is one of those a lot over some of those times. And then you have your correction from its first 3 candle move higher of massive volatility on high volume. And whenever you have the move, whenever volatility is big, volume should also be big as well. And there we have period by period. We can see in here, obviously it breaks it to 298, but we've seen how does it handle what it did there? How does it handle this attempt to revert the trend? And well, so far on this early stages, it was looking pretty good, and it looked much better there after the fact. And against Bitcoin, pretty much a lot of the same thing as well. Let me just put that chart up. Same sort of idea. Price action goes from the 283 handle up to the 306, and now back down to 298. And that is it. That is it. I guess I'll quickly show the daily because this 50 handle here, that's 52. I was talking about this for quite some time, and when it broke down, it's broken down really hard. But If you were trying to predict, oh, it's going to go up higher and you lose on the play, well, you're down, you lose, whatever. Of course, in my position, I'm just let the market do what it does. If I was trading this against Bitcoin, which right now I'm not, this would have meant you're waiting for it to break out to sell, which of course you didn't do, and then you'd buy more. Of course, on this day here, June 26th, how low were you able to buy? Because well, there was one sell opportunity, and of course the buybacks. And now the question is, are you able to get sell opportunities? And then what's your volatility? If your volatility is small, like on the 15-minute time frame, you can pick away at a lot of these types of moves. Short term, I mean, especially with the low rates on Binance in different places, where if it's going like we'll just look at like a stock, like it was $28.08, and this is like $27.70. That's like a 38-cent move from top to bottom, like 1 point whatever low change. There's a lot of people in the stock market world that will just flip those things back and forth. And of course, if that's what your pleasure is and that's what you're good at, then go, by all means, there's profitability. There's so many ways to profit at this game, but if you want to play this game, you got to know how to play it and play it right. It pretty much comes down to that. And I can't tell you, actually, I can't tell you how to play it. I kind of have. I definitely can't tell you, no one can tell you every way on how to play it successfully. As again, there are just so many ways in doing it. But for yourself, it's understanding what works for you and then just playing like a pro. Like what activities do you need to do to give you the most maximum profitability, to reduce the most mistakes that are going to cost you, to thus give you the highest return on investment that you possibly can. Part of your game plan, like a playbook in football, you execute, you design your playbook, you understand your playbook, and then you execute your playbook. It's all about the game and how you play it. Thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great day. Bye bye.